new series last week, looking at the life of Joseph. And what we did was we read all the way through Genesis chapter 37. And in Genesis chapter 37, we were introduced to Joseph. Joseph was the son of Jacob. He was the 11th of 12 sons that Jacob had. And what we saw was that he was Jacob's favorite. His father had no problem showing that he was the favorite in front of all the other brothers. He even gave him his multicolored coat to let him know he was the favorite. And one of the reasons he was the favorite is because he was the firstborn child of his beloved wife, Rachel. And so what's interesting when we see Joseph in River 37, he would go out to the field and see the bad stuff that his brothers were doing and report back to his dad. And so because he was the favorite, because he would go and tell his dad the stuff that his brothers were doing, his brothers hated him. Scripture said. It said they hated him, and also said in Genesis 37 last week that they didn't even have a kind word to say to him. And so some time goes on. Joseph is 17 years old. And what happens is his father says, hey, I want you to go check his brother, right? She's in his room, I want you to go check on him. So he goes to check him, to go check on him, and when he gets there, he doesn't find him. He asks the guy named runs into him and says, hey, see my brother? He said, oh yeah, I heard they left here and to another town, so he heads to the other town to go catch up to him. And as he's on the way to where the brothers are, they see him coming. And so they have a meeting. And they decide, we're going to kill him. I mean, that's your family's problem, right? He said, let's kill him. He said, yeah, tell us when it's coming, let's kill him. So as we're sitting there trying to figure out how we're going to kill him, say, we can take some goat blood, we can take that coat off of him, put the blood on it, so your dad say, oh man, somebody I'm going to kill him. So they're going through this whole plot. And one of the brothers, Reuben, says, hey man, let's not kill him. Instead, let's just put him in this empty cistern, and he can just starve to death. We don't have to get blood on him. And just kill him that way. It makes it better, right? Good. So somehow they agree. And what Reuben's thought is, like, okay, everybody needs oxygen, and get my brother Joseph out, make sure he gets back. And then what happens is, at some point, Reuben's not with them, and they end up deciding and putting a decision to say, you know what, we're going to sell them. See, there's a caravan coming, a slave trader. We're going to sell them into slavery and get rid of them now. And so that's what they do. Reuben comes back later, finds out that Joseph's not there. He rips his clothes because that's kind of what they do. They get mad instead of just yelling or something. So he finds out that he's not there. He's sold into slavery. And when we last saw him at the end of chapter 37, what it said was he was sold into slavery in Egypt to Potiphar. It says Potiphar is an officer of Pharaoh and the captain of the guards. And so before we jump into chapter 39 today, we'll look at chapter 39 today. Before we jump into chapter 39 today, there's something that we see here, even at the end of the chapter, even with everything that's been done wrong in him, that I think could pertain to us. See, part of the reason we're studying this and looking at his story is looking at what are the principles, what are some lessons and nuggets that we can learn from his life and apply our life. Okay? And so, there's something we see here that I think is fascinating. So it says, again, so partial spoiler alert, we don't know the story goes, I won't tell everything. Okay. Things end up working out in the end for Joseph's mission. I'll just say that, okay? Things end up working out. Okay? I was like, I didn't read it, don't worry, but, for things to work out for him, there are two pivotal things that have to happen to Joseph. Two pivotal things. One is he needs to end up in Egypt. And the second is he needs to be close to Pharaoh. Okay? Just take that. He needs to end up in Egypt, and he needs to be close to Pharaoh. And what we saw in that very last verse was that he sold to Potiphar and said that Potiphar was in Egypt, and he was an officer of Pharaoh. He was like a captain of the guards. And that reminded me of two things I want to share with you before we kind of jump back into the story today. The first one is this. Sometimes trouble ends up being the transportation you use to carry us to our destiny. Think about that for a second. He got into trouble not because he did anything wrong. Actually, because he plotted against him, right? His own brother, which, that's a whole other. Everything wrong here, right? That's a whole other story. But within his family, the dysfunction and everything else, he faced trouble, and that very trouble ended up being the thing that carried him towards destiny. And what's interesting was while he was going on, he had no prophetic time. He didn't realize the trouble was pushing him toward where God was taking him. First thing. The second thing is a scripture that you can turn to with me real quick is in John chapter 16, verse 33. John chapter 16, verse 33 is kind of a familiar scripture. And I'll read it here from the New Living Translation. You can follow along with the New King James Version. This is Jesus speaking here. And I bring this up because, again, as we're trying to carry this back to our own lives, I think it's important for us to be able to have some context here. So Jesus is speaking, and this is the thing that Jesus said to them right here in verse 33. He says, I've told you all this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth, you will have many trials, sorrow. Some translations say trouble, some say tribulation. All right? He said, but take heart, or some translations say, but have courage, because I have overcome the world. So what is he saying? Jesus said, you're going to have trouble. Everybody say trouble. Let's say it again, say trouble. He said, in this life, you will have trouble. So I'm not talking about just like I said, I guarantee it, right? Oh, that's wrong. Everybody else is like, dude, good. Okay. He said, I'm promising you, you're going to face trouble. What we see Joseph facing here is trouble. It's tribulation, it's trials, it's sorrow. He said, you're going to experience that on this journey called life. And that's exactly what we see Joseph facing in this story. And so he promises us that, and then he also tells us to have courage in facing these things. He said, have courage in facing these things because despite what you go through, you have peace in me. You have peace in me. So times might be difficult, but you can have peace in me. I want you to continue to go through. And here's the thing I want to make. Just kind of the point here. Because some people will look at this and say, man, God's not the author of the trouble that we face. I say God's not the author of the trouble that we face. And I know this can be a difficult concept for us to reconcile, right? Because here's the question that I've heard people ask hundreds of times. They say, well, if God is all knowing, Pastor, then why does he allow these trials, trouble, and suffering to happen? Right? I mean, that's very why does he allow this stuff to happen? Again, and if I tell you that, hey, we live in this fallen world, we live in a place that things exist. But one thing that I hope we can see from Joseph's story is this. Although God wasn't the cause of the difficulties we face, right? God's not the author of, he's not the author of all those things. He uses the Joseph's benefit. Right? He uses the Joseph's benefit, and similarly, I believe God will use what we go through, even when there's storms and sorrow that we experience for our good. That somehow the good can be worked from the things that we experience. And I know that sounds all great and good, and I'll show you some scripture on that here in a moment. But I want us to start there at the starting point, and then we're going to now turn all the way back to Genesis 39, because we're going to look at this particular storm and trial and trouble that Joseph is going to face in this period of his life. So all the way back to Genesis, at the very beginning, Genesis chapter 39, and we're going to read starting at verse 1. Genesis 39, starting at verse 1. Genesis 39, starting in verse 1. I'm going to read this from the New Living Translation again. Follow along whatever translation you have in front of you. You can get to the same place. And I'm going to start reading kind of the first 6 verses here. Excuse me. So this is what it says. It starts kind of where it left off on the last part of the story. So verse 1. It says, when Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased by Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Potiphar was the captain of the guard of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. The Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything he did. This pleased Potiphar's first order. So he soon made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of his entire household and everything he owned. From the day Joseph was put in charge of his master's household property, the Lord began to bless Potiphar's household for Joseph's sake. All his household affairs ran smoothly, and his crops and livestock flourished. And then verse 6, Verse 6 says, it says, Potiphar gave Joseph, we cannot see the screen, complete administration and responsibility over everything he owned. With Joseph there, he didn't worry about a thing except what kind of food to eat. And then this last part he wrote in, which kind of goes into part of the story, we'll read that. He said Joseph was very handsome and well-built. It sounds like some over. He was very handsome. When you look at this passage, there's a word that jumps out to me, and the word is paradox. The word is paradox. My favorite definition of the word paradox is two contradictory statements held together by a greater truth. Two contradictory statements held together by a greater truth. I'm going to give an example to illustrate what I mean. If we saw a high school senior, and we met them at the beginning of the senior year, and we told them, hey, this is the beginning of the end. So when you say beginning and end, those seem to be opposites and contradict one another, right? But we understand that no, this is the beginning of your school year, but it's also the end of your last year. So we understand those two things seem to be opposite can exist together. But when we look at this scripture, I believe this scripture is in paradox. Say why? Because for me to tell me that the dude got sold into slavery, that he's dealing with all the difficulty, but it also says the Lord is with him. Do what? The Lord is with him. Let's only read verses 1 and 2 one more time. Just for emphasis. Verse 1, it said that Joseph was taken into Egypt by Israelite traders. Again, so first of all, Potiphar, Egyptian officer. Potiphar was the captain of the guard for Pharaoh, king of Egypt. The Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did as a servant in the home of his Egyptian master. So being sold by his brothers, any other slavery in the South, named Potiphar. My first thought when I look at this is like, if the Lord was with Joseph at 17, why don't brothers hate me? Why did they sell me away if the Lord was with me? I'm just saying, why would I go work with this guy? The question we might have is, wait, if the Lord is with us, why do we experience trials and troubles? Wait, Jesus already told us that in this life we're going to have trouble. Right? Paradox. These competing things that don't seem to make sense until we live it out. Where you experience, hey, God's been good. This has been one of the hardest things I've ever experienced in my life. You know what I'm talking about? Check. When I read this passage, the thought you might have is that, okay, we think that having the Lord with us will move us from everything, right? Will move us from having trial, will move us from having trouble. But it seems that we can succeed in the face of storms, in the face of trouble, because we have the Lord with us. And then it reminded me immediately of this other verse. So I want to show you one more scripture. Let's go to Psalm 37. I'll wait for it. Psalm 37, verse 23. Because when I thought about this idea of God being with us, there's a scripture here that just, the 23 to 24. So Psalm 37, 23 to 24. Again, I'm reading the New Living Translation. Psalm 37, verse 23 to 24. To be your other screens. It says, the Lord directs the steps of the godly. He delights in every detail of their lives. It says, though they stumble, they will never fall, for the Lord holds them by the hand. The part they got, so the first part, right? This is the Lord directs the steps of the godly. So we look at it like Proverbs 16:9, right? The Lord directs our steps. We get that part. But the fact that He can delight in the detail of our lives is a challenge when He's so in slavery. Right? He broke for the man in the city every night. Hey, I can pay you. It's not a challenge, right? But it is a struggle when I see this. And what I wonder is a couple things. One, how does God take delight in every detail of my story when I know? there's some parts of my story that I don't want to speak of again. Like, yeah, we don't even have to ask like that. I did. The second part is what I wonder is, does God take delight in every detail? Because in spite of the situation we face, God is going to work through it. It's almost like I heard someone say once that to get a happy ending, you got to have a hellacious or a bumpy middle. You know, you got to have difficulty that happens in the middle before you get to the end. So can you delight in the details of the middle, because that's what makes the end so much sweeter. Let's go one more verse. Let's go to Romans 8:28. This is a good old, good favorite church verse here. Romans 8:28, New King James. You've been in church for a while when you grew up. The real Baptists, like we used to, one of those, they get shouting this. It says, and we know that all things work together for the good of those who love God, for those who are called according to His purpose, right? Real famous quoted scripture, right? It does, right? All things, right? Work together for the good of those who love God, who are called according to His purpose. And again, the thing that we always have to realize is, so I grew up in a context where when they said these words, something good would already happen. You know? You say like, hey, man, I'm fine, I got a job. Hey, you know all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose, right? I mean, we can say it again, but what I realized, if it's true that all things work together, then when I got laid off, that means all things work together. When they repossessed my car, all things, maybe my payments didn't work together. Okay, stay focused. Right? That is true. All things are working together for our good. That even when it doesn't feel good, we have to believe that it's working together for our good. Even when it hurts, it talks about sorrow when he said in 1633 that when we find moments of sorrow and hurt and difficulty, that even though I don't understand why this happened, but I know somehow something good has come from this, not because of me, but because it's the promise we find in Scripture. Now can we put that when we have time to do that? When we're having a difficulty. Because I believe if we can see Joseph and say that the Lord was with him, and that means like, okay, at this point of the story, Joseph probably couldn't maybe he couldn't see or really understand how God could completely fix him because everything doesn't work out. And what I wonder is, if you see that on Joseph, let's turn it on you. Do you find yourself in the middle of your story right now wondering like, God, how can good come out of this? How can I be assured that you're with me? Because what I'm going through feels overwhelming. Maybe it feels like you're abandoned. Maybe it feels like, I don't know if this is going to work out. And all I know to do is to hang on and trust God that somehow it is going to work out. And I want to encourage you to do that. To hang on and to trust, because it's easy if you know what happened at the end of the story to look at these little segments of Joseph and be like, oh, okay, this is it. At this point, he thinks this is it. Like, I'm just going to be a slave here in this house. And it's cool to say, oh, man, we got a very hard to make a man. It's not right. I'm not free to go. Do you understand? In the context, it seems good to say the Lord will do it, but I'm still, if my mind is not like, God, we should keep it out of here. I don't know hard as I'm making it, can I get one? Or maybe a Tesla, or maybe like a Jeep Grand Cherokee, or these people, or something like that. Can you help me to leave? And so saying that the Lord is with me when I'm in the middle of the story when it doesn't look like it, we have to trust that even when it doesn't look like it, doesn't feel like it, that God is with us and He's leading us. If He's delighting in every detail of our life, then don't give up before the story goes. Amen. Don't quit and just sit here going like, I don't know how this is going to work out. Maybe I should just, do they tell Joseph person out of Zion? No. Another part here. When we look at, go back to verse 2, God. So I'm going back to Genesis. All right. I jump around and I'll show you. We'll go back to Genesis 2 because there's something here that I want. Again, Again, in Genesis 2, it says, the Lord was with Joseph. So he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. The Lord was with Joseph, and so he was able to serve hold on. The point is this, when you see in verse 2, we see Joseph, it said that the Lord was with him. And what we recognize is that Joseph didn't walk around acting the title of his Lord. He didn't walk around like some privileged, spooky jerk. Because he said, God's going to clean up all of my messiness and my unfaithfulness. Right? You know, right? He just said because God's with me, I walk around like the Lord's with me, so I can't deal with it. Oh, man. Right? The Lord was with Joseph, so he was able to serve with excellence, even though he faced a difficult circumstance. He served with excellence. It says in the verse, it says, he served in the home. It said that he served in the home. So he served in excellence, even though things weren't great. Even though they said that maybe not ideal circumstance, he still served with excellence. And so here's the question. If the Lord is with you, are you serving with excellence in spite of the circumstances you're facing? All that way I'm looking at it right now. That's okay. Still looking at it. Because again, I don't know what the situation was like in Potiphar's home, but slavery doesn't sound good to me, right? Maybe it wasn't chattel slavery like here in slavery, that don't sound good. It doesn't sound like a good situation to be in. And the fact that he served with levels of excellence here is an interesting thing to think about. And so when I compare that to whatever circumstance I'm facing, how big is that difference? It's bad to me, but it's not that bad in comparison. And if he can serve with excellence, then I wonder if when I think about this idea of him serving in excellence, there's two things that I think in this verse that are evident here. All right? Number one, we see that God is with Joseph. But what's evident is that even Potiphar could see it. Enough to say, listen, I know God is with you, so I'm going to give everything I have when you to the world. God is with you, right? Those things are seen about you. They say, man, some with this person is God is with this person, things are happening, right? You can manage kind of stuff. So Potiphar could see it. But also the other thing that is evident is not just God's part, but we also need to see that Joseph's integrity and faithfulness in serving was also seen by others. He said, when you come say that point, I want to emphasize that. Now let's not let us slide over that. Because here's the thing. God's grace is available, and how we serve and represent him is good too. Because sometimes in today's church, we want to just be like, well, we got God's favor, so I don't have to, after this every favors. I don't have to do the thing that I need to do. Because here's the reality. And I'm not talking about anybody. Or maybe that, right? We should, as followers of Jesus, be the best people in this family. We should, right? We should be the most faithful people. We should be the one that they say, I can't buy this. Not only because God favored them, but the way that they work. Because they're doing their work for God, not for me. We shouldn't be the ones keeping up mess at work. Well, mess is right there. That's not what it's called. That's all I'm saying. That's right. Keeping up stuff. Arguments, disagreements. Right? Because like Pastor, didn't just talk about love for like the last half of the week, right? So we know that we're supposed to be walking in love, right? Jesus said, John 13:34, we know that we're his followers, the love we have one for another. So the love should be oozing out of us, right? Not saying you don't have bad days, but we should be the ones that are the same days in the department, right? In the place that we work, with people we interact with. It is a sad representation of who we say we are, that people look at us and we have, what's the term, a mouthful of scripture and a heart full of hate towards you. We can't be those people in that place, right? served with a level of faithfulness that he was rewarded and he kept being promoted. I'm just saying. With a level of integrity that made others take notice. And he didn't do it for that reason. I love y'all in those kind of times. Like, all right. So here's the question for you. Are you more focused on the unfavorable circumstances you're experiencing, or are you searching for joy and excellence that represents God? Now, when I ask this question, this applies to all of us, me included. This is one of those, man, Pastor, you know what? Don't Pastor, you know what? So Spirit, I don't need it. This is the question. This is the bar. How can we be a better representative of Him where we're serving, where we're working? I'm thinking about Romans 4:2. I actually promised about that right over. It says, "The goodness of the Lord, these commands were finished." It's such an interesting thing here because a lot of times we look at it in a individualistic way. Actually, it's in 2. I think it's chapter 2. It's 2:4. Romans 2:4. We said the goodness of the Lord. Yeah, they were condemning all the people in chapter 1 and talking fast all the time. So what he says, the goodness of the Lord, these commands were finished. And often we look at it and recognize for ourselves. Now, sometimes we mess up whatever. God still being good, showing himself good, to teach you to repent, right? Leads you to say, oh God, I repent, I understand you love me, and you're merciful with everything. I didn't deserve, I didn't deserve, and all that stuff. But the other thing I think about that scripture, there's probably another way to look at it, right? God's goodness leads to repentance. I wonder how many people will see God's goodness on your life, and then lead to say, hey, how can you serve God in the midst of worry about me in that life? Like how you got ill someone, you got family someone, like how are you following God like that and seeing God's goodness on your life lead them to repentance and Him as well? And I wonder, are we showing that part? Are we walking faithfully enough in that part so that other people see it, and as our active service, they see and want to know the God that we know? Not just from a looking at it out of the standpoint, but that light shining and other people see that and they want to know Him too. When we look at Joseph's life, I heard this once, I thought it was so good. Joseph's life, it really proves the lesson that is taught by the sponge. This got really, I said, sponge? You know when you fill a sponge with water, right? And then you add pressure, the water comes out of it, right? So you squeeze it, the water comes out of it. Joseph was so full of God's presence that when life squeezed him, evidence of his dedication to God oozed out. He became a successful man. And so I say that to ask you a question: what comes out of you when life squeezes you? When you're under pressure, when you find yourself feeling like, I don't know how much of this I can take, that which is him that's on the inside come out, or is it that other stuff? Well, I said, that's what you're saying. Out of the abundance of the heart, mouth speaks. So what's in there? Oh, out of there. Say, that's not where that came from. Turn back to Genesis chapter 39. So I'm going to pick back up in verse 6, and I'm going to read to the end and see what else happened in the rest of the story. Genesis 6, I'm going to read all the way down to 23 here. So again, Joseph there's the house, right? Verse 5, this is what happens. So Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned. When Joseph there, he didn't worry about the thing except what kind of food he ate. Joseph was very handsome and well-built young man. And Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him lustfully. Come sleep with me, she demanded. Joseph refused. Look, he told her, my master took me with everything in his entire household. No one here is more authority than I do. He has held back nothing from me except you, because you're his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing? It would be a great sin against God. Verse 10. She kept putting pressure on Joseph day after day. He refused to sleep with her and kept out of her way as much as possible. One day, however, no one else was around, and saw that she was holding his cloak and he had fled, she called out to her servants. Soon all the men came running. Look, she said, my husband has brought this Hebrew slave here to make fools of us. He came into my room to rape me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream, he ran outside and got away, but he left his cloak behind the window. She kept the cloak until her husband came home, and then she told him her story. That Hebrew slave who brought into our house tried to come in and fool around with me, and she said, but when I screamed, he ran outside, leaving the cloak with me. Verse 19. Potiphar was furious when he heard his wife's story about how Joseph had treated her. So he took Joseph and threw him into a prison, where the prisoners were king's prisoners were held. And there he remained. But the Lord was with Joseph in the prison and showed him his faithful love. And the Lord made Joseph a favorite with the prison warden. Before long, the warden put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners and over everything that happened in the prison. The warden had no more worries until Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed. Again, paradox. The Lord was with us when we were in jail. Oh, God. When I think about Potiphar's wife, I find it so interesting here that things are going pretty good. It seems like temptation and opposition often comes along and try to knock you off course, right? I love the fact I'm going to actually switch up. You go back to verse number 8 and 9 real quick before we just read. Just going to read it one time, verses 8 and 9. What I love about verse 8 and 9 says, when he refused, but Joseph refused, look, he told her, my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. He said, no one here has more authority than I do. He's held back nothing from me except you because it's right. And how can I do such a wicked thing? And you would think you would say, how can I do this against my master? But what it says is, it would be a great sin against God. It would be a great sin against God. And I love that he doesn't just reference Potiphar, but he speaks with accountability to God. He speaks with accountability to God. And that's what we really work for. Right? Can you? I was to the point, can you pull up a verse for me? I'm making a good on the back here today. What was Colossians 3:25? What was Colossians 3:25? Oh, sorry, 3:23. 3:23. Just here. Colossians 3:23. Look at this. Colossians 3:23. New Living Translation. Look at what it says. Because some people might say, well, that's just no sense. It's kind of easy to love God. Colossians tells us. It says, work diligently at whatever you do as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. So I don't know who's signing for a check. I don't know who's going to get ready to check. They're ready to buy this company now, right? But we work for the Lord. We're held accountable to God for how we operate and how we do what we do. Right? That's who we're responsible for. That's who we have to work for. And I look at Joseph like, man, he's like, I'm not necessarily worried about Potiphar, but I can't do this against God. I can't do this against God. You go explain that to the point, yes, like I said. Here's the point. I said all this with the point of this. When temptation comes, you're ready from your destiny. Stay focused on what you're supposed to do. When someone comes to try to get you off track, stay focused on what you're supposed to do. Stay focused on what you're supposed to do. I got Joseph like this. I know what I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to stay in my lane. He didn't let anything distract him. And I think it's easy to see, when you look at Joseph, I think it's easy to see how unfair life was to him, right? Again, throughout this whole story, he did nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong and is still dealing with all of his difficulty. But in every circumstance he finds himself in, he tries to do it. He tries to do what he's supposed to do. Like, look, I'm trying to do my best in this situation. And again, what you'll end up seeing in the story is, even somebody wrongly accusing him, leaving him thrown in jail, God uses that to propel him closer to his destiny. Although I'm sure for him at the time he didn't feel like it. I mean, from slavery to jail. Again, I'm just very practical, like, what is it like in the moment. So you're going to tell me, I God's favor with me is something that is troubling, but I say all of this because I believe some of you might be experiencing right now could be pushing you closer to your destiny. It may not feel like it right now. Again, as I think about the end of the story that we're going to happen, in this moment where this lady lies on him, he's like, I didn't do it, they just throw him, don't pass go to a great jail, we're going to lock you up. It probably didn't feel like, oh, I'm on my way to what God's probably do. It feels like, what did I do? And maybe you feel like this. Maybe right now, this moment, you feel like, God, what do I do to deserve this? God, what am I doing with all these crazy people? God, why am I in this situation right now? And I hope by looking at Joseph's story that you remember that you find yourself in a situation where you're dealing with adversity, you're dealing with difficulties, you're dealing with challenges, you're dealing with not being treated fairly, or even being falsely accused of something you did not do. I want you to look at the opposition that's coming against you. Look at the circumstances that are trying to get you off course, and remember that if you are a follower of God, God is with you. Scripture tells us repeatedly that God is not going to leave you nor forsake you. And I know that sounds good in Sunday school, right? That's like something that we say, but I want you to take off those pages, and you have to be able to believe that it's true to your life. We have to walk in the confidence that God is with us, even though, like we read, some circumstances might not be good, at the end it's all going to end up with. Don't let the difficulties, don't let the stumbling blocks cause you to quit and give up. I'm convinced that the enemy cannot stop you, but he tries to get you to stop yourself. Tries to get you to quit. Tries to get you to just let go. But will you keep pushing? But will you keep going? I'll finish today. Only I do my question because there's something that's kind of thought I want you to kind of think about. I keep referencing the fact that God is with us, right? Because that's scripture tells us. He said, I will lead you with safety. But now I'll kind of put that on the other side. Because if you're someone here, you say, well, Pastor, how know God is with you? Right? If you can't say that with surety that God is with you, then what I wonder is, what are you counting on today? Like really, and I say this not in like a judgy way or negative way, but seriously, where's your hope that things are going to work out? So I can talk about me, I can't talk about God. I can't trust me. Maybe. I'm like, I don't do this. This might not be the one. It might not work out, right? I don't know if I can trust me. And when I face situations that are bigger for me, if my hope is in bigger in myself or in some degrees or in my intelligence or the people I know, that's not good. He had God, and that's what helped him to overcome all of these situations. And we have to have God help us overcome everything that's wrong with us. I know there's more twists and turns to the story and we talk about that in the week, but as a stopping point, and I guess we will start from here today, is really asking you that question: do you have God? Do you know that I have God with me? Because if you don't know that you have God with you, you can do all the right things and still live your lifestyle. You can achieve all the quote-unquote success in the world and still feel empty inside. You can go on this journey and feel like you're fighting a losing battle because there's something that's not on the other side of the building. As you continue to take this journey called life, you don't have to go, you're hitting these things, you're achieving these things, you might get frustrated people, but you know, there's something missing. And so I want to give you an opportunity to invest. If you're here, you've never made Jesus your life. Here's what we believe. We believe that Jesus really did die on the cross. That he really walked this earth. And that when he died on the cross, he did it as a sacrifice for us. Not because we live with this, because what needs to take place to atone for all those things. And so all the bad stuff we would do, right? Not just in the past, but our past, present, and future sins. Jesus died on the cross that one time for us. Hebrews said it was once and for all sacrifice. I know that sounds weird so much. Like, why did he die for the future sins? Yes, all of our sins in the future, he died in front. Because if it was based on us, then he had to get back on the cross again, which didn't have to happen. So he died for all of our sins. He said that, okay, he was buried for 3 days, he rose again and is sitting at the right hand of the Father. What he said is, if you place your faith in me, right? If you place your faith in me, that's what gives you access to heaven. That's what gives you the opportunity to do it. That's there's more than just that, right? You should understand, okay, he died for you, you should have a purpose in him. You have struck me to do all this earth bottom system. And the only way I'm going to know is being in a relationship with you. The only way I'm going to understand why you created me. Why'd you give me to get some talents and ability? Why'd you give me an opportunity to use them? Because there was something you had planned for me before you started. And you had to make that decision. You have to make that decision. When I say question, it's not about church. It's not about religion. It's about you. One, settling your future. Also make a decision to have a relationship with the person you created. God's not some mystical thing out there. He wants to have an intimate, closer relationship with you. So you have to make that decision. If you, and another thing we talk about a lot is social media and this, and there's many ways to God and all this other stuff. But Jesus said, I'm going to put you in the word. You have to believe in me. So I'm going to stick to this. The thing is, we have to make that decision right. So we don't stand, we have our prayer council come down, but if you never make that decision, you can't say, hey, I'm going to die in the next 2 years. Then I know I'm going to die with God. I'm going to ask you, now, make that decision. If you make that decision, even if I never see you again, I will see you again. But it's a decision every single one of us has to make for ourselves. The second thing like that is just not even dedication. Dedication for those who say, well, if Pastor, I made a decision to place my faith in you. You know, like, honestly, where I am right now, I don't live like that shit. Right? Maybe there's the positive, there's the bad decisions, road stakes, all types of stuff. He said, man, I just feel like it's out here. But the good news is that God has never come down the road. And what he says is, in spite of all of that stuff, I still love you. Repent, let's keep going. Too often when we find ourselves in that position, we feel like we're stuck. And we have to deal with the consequences of our choices and actions. That's foolish. It's how it goes. There's something on the other side of that that we don't spend our life feeling like, oh man, I messed up and I can't go beyond this. I'll use an analogy of GPS driving the car. The little GPS will say, hey, go forward 2 miles. And because you're driving the car, you can take a quick turn, you can take a detour. The GPS says, go forward 2 miles. And no matter where you go, the GPS will simply recalculate based on where you are now. It's still a short course to get you where you need to be. I mean, that's what God does with us. So we say, man, I love to dedicate myself to things God. I love prayer, dedication with you. Third is I need prayer. If you need prayer for anything, there's nothing too small, there's nothing too large. We're a church who believes and knows that prayer works. So don't be in this place saying, man, I need prayer. I ain't only praying for this is my question. Yeah. Still pay that. Last Sunday, God's called to be part of this church. Here's what you need to know. No matter who's up there on Sunday, Wednesday, classes, all this other stuff, we try to teach the Word of God in a simple and uncomplicated way so you can understand it and then go with it. Second, we want to go visit our community so we can that's the Bible so we can know. Third, we are church family, different stories, different backgrounds, different ages. God has sent us here together to come to make a difference and to use to bring our gifts and talents to make an impact in this church and beyond these 4 walls into this community. And so you're like, man, I love to be a part of that. We would love to have you. So there's 4 things. You need to be saved. You need to be dedicated. You need prayer. Anything. God's calling you to be a part of this church. We would love to have you. So I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. If you are able to, can you stand right where you are? I'm going to ask my prayer council to come down and get in position. And so we're going to sing with these folks. And as we are singing, we respond to one of those four things I mentioned.